Alright everybody, welcome to Unglued Modeler. This episode we are finally going to start working on the Carbon Cub.
Yay!
Yeah, finally. We just want to apologize, it's taken a little bit here. This is a big project, so we did a couple little airplanes in between, but finally starting on the Carbon Cub, we're pretty excited. So we're gonna just start with just kind of going by the directions. I am gonna deviate a little bit. I'm gonna take our sealing iron and seal some of the edges that I can't get to on these control surfaces. You can see they're kind of wrinkly on the back sides of these control surfaces, and the same thing with the inside of where the control surfaces go. So if I glue them up now, I'm afraid I won't be able to get to them after they're all glued up to seal them and get rid of the wrinkles. So I'm just gonna do the edges real quick before I glue in these control surfaces.
And normally the instructions just tell you to do the sealing at the end.
Yeah, so
okay.
I don't think it really says in the directions to do necessarily all the heat gun stuff at the very end. It doesn't really say to do that at the end. I was just going by Ollie's video and he did his at the end.
Okay.
But I am gonna, just like I said, do these hard to get spots first, and then we'll glue it in, and then we'll do the main areas at the very end.
Makes
but
sense.
some of this we're not gonna be able to get to it at the end.
Yeah.
So anyway, I got my heat gun all warmed up, or the heating iron all warmed up here. You can see these wrinkles here on these edges, so we're gonna try and get rid of some of these.
You got the heat sock on too, right?
Yeah, I got the heat sock. This is my first time doing this, so you can't really use the gun or the side of the iron to keep pushing it, because what that does is it keeps softening the glue. So some of these are going to be kind of ugly. Like I said, this is my first time. That's why I'm starting on these spots that you can't really see. I'm gonna leave that. I think that's about as good as it's gonna get. I'm sure a pro could get it looking better, but to me that looks a lot better than it was. All right, let's go do the other side here.
So we'll just do the surfaces that we can't
obviously
see
when
we put it together. Okay.
And then you can kind of take your finger and, oh yeah, there we go.
I'll move the bubble away.
Yeah, so that actually looked really good.
Oh, heat it up nice and warm.
And then you kind of, I run my fingernail down it. That actually looks pretty good right there on that.
It looks nice and flat. Most of it anyway.
It's not bad. Let's try to work these out towards this edge. All right, so this edge came out pretty good.
Looks a lot better.
Yeah, this is all the stuff that's gonna be really hard to get to, if not impossible to get to, once you get all the hinges on, because these are, inside the wing. The rest we'll be able to get to at the very end. I'm sure a lot of you pros out there are gonna be cringing at my cover technique, but hey, you gotta learn somehow, right?
Yep.
All right, so there's the flap. All right, let's do aileron. So same thing.
And we're gonna do both wings right now.
Yeah, while I got the iron plugged in, working my way down here, trying to figure this stuff out. Not a super exciting video, but we'll show you a couple of these, I think, and then move on to the hinges.
Oh, it looks a lot better.
That looks pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm happy with that edge. All right, let's do this one now. All right, so we got one wing done. So we did the inside channel here. You can see it looks pretty good. And this is stuff you're not really going to be able to see, but I wanted to get rid of a lot of the air bubbles that were on there. All this stuff we're going to do at the end. And then we did the beveled edges here on the control surfaces too. So they look pretty good. We got all those big air bubbles out.
Okay. Yeah.
And once it's all glued in, it goes
Like.
kind of right here.
Yeah.
So you're not going to be able to see those edges, but I did want to seal them up. All right.
Cool.
So one wing done, we're gonna get the other wing out and do the exact same thing. I'll just fast forward through it, but yeah, we're getting there, looking good. All right, everybody, the ironing is done. We sealed up all the inside edges. So what we are gonna do now is take our thin CA and start gluing in the fabric hinges. Okay, so the directions want us to take a 1/16 drill bit and drill a hole in the center of each hinge slot on the control surface and the wing. It recommends to use a pin vise, but the 1/16 doesn't fit in our pin vise for some reason. So anyway, I just got my drill. I'm gonna go really slow, and that's the key here. If you are gonna use a drill, just go slow. Just gonna get the center. I can see the slot there, and we are gonna go in.
There you go.
There's one. There's pre-cut slots here, and
Oh, okay.
yeah, you just put a hole right in the center into the slot. That's what the directions say.
Yeah, go nice and slow. And
Yeah. All right, next is the wing. So I'm only going about a 1/2 inch in, because remember the little fabric hinge only goes in about that much.
it's a thicker piece of wood too.
Yeah, this is a lot easier. All right, so we have all the holes drilled in the center of the control surface and the wing. So now, following the directions again, we're gonna put the pins in the center of each fabric hinge. So what this does is just basically ensures that you're in the middle, that you don't push it too far in. So you just kind of,
I'll slide it into back into the slot.
yeah, back into the slot. And see how the pin works?
Oh yeah.
It
Stops
makes
at
it,
halfway.
yeah, it stops at halfway. Here we go, we're just gonna put all these in.
And then we'll put the glue in.
Yep, well, you gotta line it all up. So you get it all lined up,
Okay.
you pull the pins, and then you do the droplets of glue in there, and it wicks in.
Okay.
All right, so we have it all pinned up. We put the pins in from the bottom just because of the triangle braces here. Now we are gonna put the control surfaces on, and once the control surfaces are on, then we can pull the pins, then we can start injecting the glue. I don't wanna say injecting, it's just little droplets here and there. But let's get these on. Mary just kind of stabilized that.
Okay.
This is a tricky part here, because I gotta get all the
Oh,
hinges lined up.
Okay.
All right, so that is all in. We're just gonna leave it for now. We gotta get the flap on. Then we can start spacing everything. I'm gonna leave the pins in for now too. So something to watch out for. Make sure you do not glue the notch on the top of the wing. Remember, this control horn has to be in line with your servo opening.
Okay.
So
Good
be
to know.
careful. It'd be real easy to do with the flap. The aileron, it's kind of obvious because it has a curve, but the flap, you could easily glue it in like that.
Backwards? Yeah.
And guess what? Your
Your-
slot is on the top of the wing now, so pay attention. So same thing, we're just kind of sliding these on.
You gotta be a little bit more gentle.
It's just,
Yeah, the pins aren't in all the way on this side.
yeah.
Okay. Oh, there you go.
So the lines look good.
Yeah.
Okay, so just keep, I'm not. All right, so what we want to do now is make sure all these gaps are even. Just kind of get it.
Oh, between the flap and the aileron and the
Yeah,
wing.
so you want this edge level. So you don't want it sticking up, you don't want it below it. Looks good. We got about a 1/16 of an inch gap there. That's about a 1/16. Looks maybe a little too much. And I think down here we have almost nothing, yeah. So what needs to happen is we can move this over just a
little bit.
teeny bit.
Oh, that, yeah, I see some spacing.
All right, so now, same thing, we're gonna pull the pins now.
And then do the deflection.
Yeah. Okay, so now this is the aileron, so it needs to go both ways. So we're gonna just kind of deflect it down,
And then go up.
deflect it up.
And that's where it stays.
And that should be pretty much where it is. And let's just give it one final check. Everything looks even. Looking good. All right, let's get our glue ready. So you want to use thin CA, because remember, thin CA is what's gonna wick into that fabric. That's the whole design of these hinges. You don't want thick CA because it won't go anywhere.
Yes.
So we are gonna start putting our thin CA in here. A couple drops. 1, 2. 1, 2. So, we have this wing
Put together.
glued, set him aside. So we're gonna let this dry. All right, so we'll see in a little bit if that works. It says to give it a tug test in a little bit, and if it doesn't pull out, then you got it good. If it does, then add more glue. That's what
More
it says.
glue.
So,
All right, next wing.
all right, so we have both wings glued up with the control surfaces. Hopefully they're good. We gotta let it dry before we test it. And yeah, we'll see what we got after that. But so far so good. So we finished gluing up all the hinges. They're looking great. Quick test. Perfect movement. No binding. We already gave it the tug test. You can pull on these really hard. Not like you'd ever do that normally, but it says to just give them a quick tug in the manual there. And yeah, they're looking good. Pretty happy with them. The spacing looks great. You probably can't really see it, but everything's lined up really nice. Got nice movement. The flaps, obviously. Ailerons, good in both ways. But anyway, next step, what we're gonna do, we dug out the control horns for the flaps and the ailerons. Here they are. We're gonna do just one wing at a time. So what we're gonna do here, we're gonna make sure these fit. We're gonna do a little dry fit here. Then we're gonna scuff up the part that goes into the control surface, and it says to use an epoxy. So I got some 5-minute epoxy. This is a real quick, easy, place it in its slot type of deal, so a 5-minute epoxy will work. But yeah, so we're gonna get to that. Next step here. So we're just scuffing up only the part that's gonna go into the wing, or I should say the control surface. Doing the aileron here. Getting rid of any burrs on the edges. Perfect. Okay, looks good. Let's get this guy. Once we mix up the glue, we're gonna do both of them at the same time.
Okay.
I think we'll have plenty of working time
5 minutes. Yeah.
with the 5-minute. So it fully cures in 5 minutes. Realistically, you only get about 2, maybe 3 minutes tops working time, but I think we can make this work. But you gotta get everything ready to go, dry fit it. We went in nice. So see that? It's actually a little crooked. So I gotta figure out why.
Okay.
Yeah, that one's nice. So it's just this one I'm worried about.
Okay.
So
Maybe there's some stuff in there.
I think it's just the way they made the pocket is off to an angle.
Okay.
So what I can do, I'm gonna try to shave some away. That way I can, when I glue it in, I can kind of pivot it a little, or turn it a little bit and let it dry
Straighten
straight.
it up. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Oh, straighten it up?
yeah. There we go. So I just took, I mean, barely any out, but now I got a little bit of movement there.
So you can straighten it when you glue it?
See that?
Oh yeah.
So now when I glue it, I can hold it in the plumb position.
Okay, yeah. More vertical. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, because there wasn't that movement before. That's all it needed, about a 30-second over. But that looks a lot better to me. I'll let it dry like that, because it was like that, and that's just, that's ugly. Yeah, all right, cool.
Alrighty.
All right, so we got that taken care of. What we gotta do now is we're gonna take these out. He's pretty tight.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
All right, we have some denatured alcohol here. We're just gonna clean up the little areas where we sanded, because that's gonna be where the epoxy adheres to.
Paper towel.
Yeah, the Q-tip was leaving fuzz.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so we're getting ready to glue these down, and we noticed that there was a little bit of, right around the opening, there was a little bit of the ultra coat that was bubbling. So we just sealed it up real quick. So if you're doing this, it's just something to think about. Just seal up right around these slots real quick. So we got our blue tape. Gonna leave about a 1 millimeter gap. All this is gonna do is leave a nice finished edge of epoxy. They call it a fillet. Is it mandatory? No, but it's gonna leave a big mess if you don't. So we're gonna make a nice little, basically like a little border. All right, so we have all the tape on, making our nice little fillets. I'm gonna do this guy last, because remember, this is the guy that I gotta kind of hold a little bit as it dries. See it mixing in the quick mix stick? These are pretty cool. So when it comes out, it's already ready to go. So we'll inject some down in the hole there, get a little bit. It's not a lot.
Oh yeah, you
don't want a huge mess. It says put a little on the edge
horn
there.
itself? Okay.
So work it down, take it out a couple times, just make sure it's all in there, you know?
Yeah.
All right, we're on the last one here. Ran into a little hiccup with the epoxy. It's already starting to harden up in the little nozzle here, but you know, that's what you get for working with the 5-minute. You get about 2, like I said, maybe 3 minutes tops of working time. I got an idea.
I was gonna say, just tape it. There you go. So I think the best way to go about it with the tape is you actually put the control horn in there first and then tape around it.
Yeah.
Before you pull it out and do the epoxy.
Yeah.
That way you see the spacing in the front and the back.
Yep.
But
I forgot the control horn had a little bit of an overhang. Let's see how it would have looked right there. Look at that. That's how it should have looked.
oh, there you go. So you can clean it up a little bit while it's still curing.
Yeah, so
denatured alcohol.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, or isopropyl, just alcohol in general. So I kind of made my own little fillet.
On that one?
Yeah. So that edge looks pretty good. That back edge I can fix. There's a straight line.
Oh, that one looks nice.
Alright, so that one looks pretty good. Happy with that. We'll pull this back over, keep some tension on it so it can dry in the plumb. Alright, so we got all the control horns in. Next step, the manual says it wants us to install the servos in the pockets and hook up the actual linkages. So we're going to give this a little bit of time to dry. It's 5-minute epoxy, so it should not take too long, but that's the next step. Let's keep going. Alright, so last we left off, we have the servo pockets and the mounting door, or whatever you want to call it, for the servo. We actually ran into an issue with the stock arms that come with these Power HD servos. The ones that came with these servos were actually too big. Let me find one. I think that's
Yeah,
one
they
of
were
them.
kind of thick. And
So anyway, they were a little too thick, and what was happening was it was pushing it too far out, and it was hitting the opening, and obviously that's not good. So I don't know if these Power HD servos are different dimensions, slightly different, maybe a little taller than the Spectrum servos they recommend. And I know for a fact people are using these in this plane, and they've used them in a ton of planes. But anyway, we had to order some other servo arms. I ordered some actual Dubro arms, and these are actually thinner than, you can definitely see
oh
it.
yeah, look at that.
So the hub is smaller. So we ordered some Dubro arms. I'm gonna use these, and they actually give me a lot better clearance. So we were waiting on some arms in the mail. These should be plenty for this airplane. This isn't a crazy aerobatic airplane. It's just a Cub. So I think these are gonna be more than adequate for this type of flying. So let's get these hooked up. Hopefully get back on track. All right, pop that on.
And the servo centered.
Yeah, we've already done the servo centering. So we pulled out the little screw that came with the servo kit. We're gonna screw the horn on. Gonna get this in the pocket. There we go.
It's on the right way.
So
oh yeah, look at that nice.
It's
clearance.
not perfectly in the center, but it's way better. Like I said, the other arm was hitting it was actually right up against it. So these actual genuine Dubro arms are much more in the center. So I'm happy with that. That's acceptable. We've already drilled the holes, remember, for the servos. So you got to drill the holes and then reinforce the threads
With CA.
with the CA glue. So we've already done that.
Okay.
All right, we'll get them all screwed down. All right, we'll give them all just a little final snug. You don't want to over tighten these. Remember, you're screwing these into just some balsa. We have reinforced the threads with the CA, but you could still rip them out, rip the threads out of the balsa if you just keep wrenching on it. There you go.
Cool.
Okay, so we got our servo installed in the servo cover door. We've got 2 different size rods, 4 total. And I think they were telling us for the flaps, yeah, 4 7/8 or 124 millimeters. So it's from the Z, where the Z is, not the very tip, so actually where the Z bend is.
Okay.
So we're gonna put that right at the end. And there's 125, and we're already set at 124 millimeters because I already did this clevis before we had to order those servo horns. I just wanted to double check. So this one's
Good.
pretty much set where I want it. I was just confirming. So you do have to make these holes a little bigger. Sometimes, let's see if it'll fit though. It might fit this time. It does say in the directions, you might have to run a drill bit through it, but I think it's going through actually. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So the plastic is pretty easy to deal with. You just kind of put it in there and then you just
Yeah.
take the Z bend and you just kind of
There you go.
pop it through.
Yay.
So that goes in there. Let's just make sure everything's looking good before I hook this up. This should
Oh,
get, yeah, this
look
should
at
be
that.
good. I think this will work.
I think it's fairly straight.
Okay.
Got it.
All right, so we got that hooked up. We're just kind of mocking this up still. In the directions, they have you set the linkage length to where the flap is at a mid position. So that's why it looks like this. So the servo is set at neutral or centered,
Okay.
and then that puts the flap at mid. So when you go to the full flaps down, the servo is going to move forward. And when you go to 0 flaps, the servo is going to move that way and make it
All the way back.
0 flaps. So that's why they have you set it like this. They say it's just a good starting point. Last step here, we got to just slide the little silicone cover over to keep that, and then you just lock this guy. A little pair of pliers. Nothing crazy. We're gonna put the servo extension on there. I'm not sure if I'm gonna commit to using this length. But once I find the exact length I want, I'm gonna put some heat shrink over the joint here to hold it. Yeah. So the flap one's pretty easy.
Okay.
So there we go. So we got the flap lead coming out. I'm just gonna put 1 or 2 little screws in there just to hold it so it doesn't keep flopping around. So remember, we already drilled and reinforced the holes that I'm screwing into now. We already drilled and reinforced those with CA also. So I'm just gonna put 2 right here for now, just to hold it, just in case I need to take it off and make some adjustments. Okay, so there is how you do the servo pockets. Like I said, I got those 2 out still.
Yeah.
We're gonna do the rest of them just off camera. We don't need to show you how to do every single one. It's identical to this. You just gotta measure the length of the rod to what they tell you in the manual. They say that's a good starting point, so that's what we're gonna go with. And that's pretty much it. So we're gonna get all the pockets done up, and then we'll move on to the next step. All right, so we're just doing a quick servo test. I was worried if the linkage was gonna hit the opening or not. So I've just got it plugged into the Flying Eagle.
Oh, goodness.
Just doing a quick servo test, just getting it to move here.
Yeah.
So instead of programming it onto the flap switch, so I don't have any control, it just goes to a
Whatever.
position. I've hooked up the flap servo to my aileron stick, so I can control it real slow. So going that way, perfect. It lines up with the trailing edge of the wing, so we got plenty of movement there. And then going forward, I was worried it was gonna hit, but the flap surface itself stops right there, and you can see the servo does not hit.
Yeah. We got.
So basically what I'm saying is I have plenty of travel,
And clearance.
yeah, and clearance either way. So this is perfect. We're looking good. I was worried that arm wasn't gonna work, but it's gonna work perfect. So really happy. So we're gonna continue on to the rest of the pockets here, install all the servos. So we're looking great. All right, so we got all the servos installed and all the linkages up. It's looking really good. We went by the linkage lengths, what the manual recommends. And the flaps look like they're gonna work out really nice. The ailerons though, they recommend 130 millimeters length on the rods, and with the servos centered, you can see the aileron is just slightly not even with the edge. So what I'm gonna do is lengthen the rod, and that's gonna bring it down. So even in the manual, it says those lengths are just starting points. This one's pretty similar too.
Yeah, that one's a little bit
And that's
worse. Yeah.
what the manual recommends. So we're just gonna lengthen the rod, and that's gonna even it up. So we're gonna do the mechanical neutral. You always wanna get it as close as you can so you don't burn up all your sub trims. I actually had to lengthen my ailerons rods about 5 millimeters on each. So manual recommends 130 millimeters. I think I probably went up to 135 millimeter. But what it did is it just made them all mechanically centered or mechanically neutral on the control surfaces. And remember, the flaps, the way they have you set them up when you're building the plane is when the servo is centered, the flap is in mid position.
Okay.
So that's why it looks like that.
Yeah, we got thrown off when we were
So
setting
all
it
my
up.
servos are centered, and the flaps, the way they have you build the plane is like that. But yeah, looking really good, guys. I got everything all set up. The only issue I ran into, these cheap little screws that are used to hold these servo covers down. They are very cheap. One of them, the head broke, so you can see I'm actually missing one right here.
And we gotta find one.
So I gotta locate one. I gotta go to the hardware store or something. But it's just you can get that.
It's a common screw, right?
Oh yeah, it's just a teeny tiny little wood screw. But that's the only issue I ran into. These screws are so cheap, so be careful with them. I almost stripped out a couple others, but I managed to make them work. So this one actually broke though. But other than that, everything's looking really good. I got my wires pulled through. I just got to attach the Y harnesses. You know, you do need Y harnesses with the flaps and the ailerons. But that's the end of our video 1 here. Getting into video 2, what we're gonna be getting into is the fuselage, mounting the horizontal stabilizer, the elevator, and the rudder control surfaces. And we're just gonna dry mount the wings because they want you to measure from the wingtips to the horizontal stabilizer. They just wanna make sure everything's square. So we're gonna be putting the wings on, but not permanently. It's just, so next video, the plane's gonna start taking shape and looking kind of big. So it's gonna be kind of cool. Hopefully we can keep this momentum going because we're doing good, and this is a really cool plane. I really want to get this plane ready for maybe a springtime maiden. I know that's kind of far out, but we just got so much other stuff going on. We've been real busy with work. So again, we're very sorry this is taking so long. It's just, it's a cool plane. We're trying to do it right. But thanks for watching, everybody. I'm excited, Mary's excited, so hopefully we can keep this going. Thanks for watching, everybody. Thumbs up if you liked it.